Hello there, my dear friends. I'm glad that you've joined me again as we continue in our Christmas story. We're in the countdown to Christmas, and yesterday we read that Mary and Joseph were on the way to Jerusalem. This was very inconvenient. These orders came at the wrong time, but they went and they came to Jerusalem. Let me read a little bit more in this story, two more verses from chapter 2 of Luke's Gospel, and verse 6 and 7. And there we read, and while they were there, while they were in Bethlehem, the time came for her to give birth. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, wrapped in him swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. So they'd already arrived in Bethlehem. You know, some of the plays that we do, the nativity plays, Mary is on a donkey coming into Bethlehem, and as soon as they get past the sign, "Welcome to Bethlehem," she starts feeling labor pains. But it doesn't seem that that was the case in this biblical story, but they already arrived there in Bethlehem. And after they arrived, she goes into labor and she gives birth to this baby. Now it tells us here that she gave birth to her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. Now, I've told you a number of times that the New Testament, it was written originally in the Greek language. And if we look at the Greek, in the Greek language at this passage, then we find actually there's no reference to an inn, meaning a small hotel or a boarding house or something like that. But really the word that is used there is for a guest room, a spare room. There was no spare room in the place where they were staying. And you know, we have also in a lot of nativity plays, we have a very evil looking landlord who won't allow this young couple to come into his establishment, and eventually they find a place in a stable. But that's not really what the Bible tells us. And you know, they went to Bethlehem because Bethlehem was Joseph's father's town. That was where their family came from. He certainly would have had relatives in that city. Perhaps even his father and mother were still alive and were living there, because you know, probably Joseph had gone to Nazareth because of his apprenticeship. And now they're coming back to their father's house, and they're going into the house where maybe it was where Joseph's parents were still living, they're still alive. Perhaps grandfather and grandmother were there too, and maybe some of the brothers had come because they also had to be counted, and the house was full. Now, the people used to live, or they used to sleep in the first story. And in the lower story, that's where the kitchen would be done. Maybe there was a workshop, depending what jobs the people would have. Maybe a little place where they could sit together and maybe talk during the evenings. Although we also know they would do that on the roof, and sometimes they would sleep on the roof. But everything was full. So they only found a place to sleep down below. And because there was no spare room for them, there's no room in the no guest room was free. So they're sleeping down below. And I guess as the baby is born and Mary needs a little bit of rest, she's exhausted from the going into labor and birthing this child. She's completely exhausted. She needs to sleep. And so Joseph, I could imagine him going outside, and the only thing, stupid man, he goes and gets a crib, and he brings a crib in. I mean, that's where the animals would feed, and he puts some hay or some straw in there, and puts a little blanket on top of it, and lays the baby in there. We see that wherever they were, that this group of that in this house, it was a poor man's house. And that's where Jesus always felt at home, with these poor people. Later he would say, you know, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. And the poor were one of the main focal target groups that he had to bring good news to these poor. And you know this, if we really read this, if we really read this story and find out that it's not about an evil innkeeper who wouldn't let them in, well, the innkeepers are now rehabilitated, and they are also included in Jesus' invitation that he makes to us. If we are tired, if we are heavy laden, let's come to him. If we are thirsty, let's come to him. You know, if we need help, if we're at the end of our wits end, yes, let's come to him. Jesus has got his arms wide open for us, and he invites us in. So I hope you have a good day today. Be encouraged. God is with you. You're Bob Hatton, your encourager.